I see a lot of vintage Christmas ornaments. Oh, whoa. Welcome to episode 33. In this episode, we're going to do more house clean out unboxing. I grabbed a few more boxes out of our storage unit. I literally don't know what's in either one of these boxes, so we can be surprised together. I also got a crate of records that I got out of the house clean out, just some really awesome vintage records, but I believe I'm going to keep those. I'll show those to you too, though. But anyway, let's get into it and see what we got. Okay, first we're going to do this vintage chest that we got from the house. They had 3 or 4 of these chests in the house, so we just loaded them up with as much stuff as we could get them as possible. Let's crack it open and see what's inside of it. I'm going to crack it open and then I'll pause for a second. I'll unload everything onto the table so we get a better look at it. But first, I see some cookware, some puzzles. Who knows what all's in there? A wooden face. But anyway, let me pause it right quick and I'll unload it so we can get a better look. Okay, you can see we got box 1 opened up and emptied. It was just a mixture of things. Some of the most random stuff. But let's get into it. We got this vintage wooden hand-carved face. This is actually pretty cool. There's spider webs on it. It says made in Mexico. Hand carved wall hanging wooden face. Structo Toys. Looks like a trash truck from the 1950s. It has some damage. It's missing a wheel and the hood. I'm going to keep an eye out for it though, because you never know. Maybe it's in one of these other boxes, but if not, we can still sell it for parts on eBay. A vintage flower frog, orange. A vintage pot that says Household Institute cooking utensils, 2-quart pot. Vintage cookware. We actually sell a lot of vintage cookware. Next we have a enameled copper plate slash dish. It looks like it has a chicken on it. Very dusty. As you can see, it should clean up pretty nicely. Everything in this house was extremely dusty, so part of just the routine of doing these unboxes, unbox everything, then take it and wash it or clean it up, or use my air compressor and blow it off to get the dust off all this stuff before I bring it in my house to start doing the research and listings. Looks like we got a vintage General Electric mixer from, I would guess, the 50s, if not older. Jeez, look at all those cobwebs. Extremely dirty. That's something that I really don't know a ton about, these vintage household equipment. First things first, you got to clean it up and test it to see if it even works still. Actually, maybe first things first to look it up and see if it's worth anything before you even mess with cleaning it up. But anyway, you got a enameled casserole dish made in Italy, vintage. A couple of vintage puzzles, Guild jigsaw puzzles. Let's see if I can find a date on it anywhere. Looks like where the date would be is torn off on both sides. Another vintage puzzle, Old Mill, New Jersey. 600 pieces. Looking for a year. I don't see a year on that either. I would guess these are probably from the 60s. Next we have a New York Dobbs, 5th Avenue. 'Avenue. 5th Avenue. It's a hat box. 5th Avenue. 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 5th couple hats in here. Ooh, these look very old. It's a hat with feathers on it. Looks like in pretty good shape, honestly. Considering how delicate and old it probably is. Another vintage hat. This one's fur. It says Bloomingdale's, New York. A third vintage hat. This one is also Bloomingdale's, New York. I don't know if you can see the tag there, but it says Bloomingdale's, New York. A fourth vintage hat. This one has some staining on it. I'm not sure from why, because there's not much in this, not anything in this hat box other than hats. It also says Bloomingdale's, New York. I don't know anything about vintage hats though, so that'll be something we have to do the research on, and then if we find stuff, we'll pop the comp up so you guys can see the value of this stuff. Have to be very careful, not knocking any of these feathers off of these hats. Top back on it. We got more vintage cookware. My wife was just saying to me, actually yesterday, she was like, I know there was more pots and pans from this house. I could see them in the video. And I was like, yeah, they got to be in a box somewhere. Roebuck and Company, Sears Roebuck and Company, copper bottom pan, skillet. This one just says France on it. Regal Supreme quality aluminum skillet. This bad boy here, very large. Heller Designs Italy, 2-handle pan. Next, let's go through this box of vintage records I grabbed out of the house. There were stacks and stacks of records. Not everything was up my alley. I grabbed the ones I like because I'm pretty much going to keep all of these, but I still want to show them to you because they're just awesome records. The first, Pink Floyd Animals from 1977. A Tony Bennett, I've Grown Accustomed to Her Face record. A vintage Pink Floyd The Wall album from 1979. And if you look, you can look at these old records and you can look for the barcodes. The older vintage records won't have a barcode on them. They didn't start using barcodes on records until around 1979. So pretty much the 80s moving forward, there was barcodes on the backs of the records. Just a little thing to keep in mind when you're looking at records to tell if they're actual vintage records or not. The Worst of Jefferson Airplane. Aha, Hunting High and Low. This has Take On Me on it, I believe. Yep, Take On Me. 1985, I believe. That's it. A Disney Chilling, Thrilling Sounds of the Haunted House, 1964 record. Alfred Hitchcock presents Ghost Stories for Young People. Let's see here, 1962. That'd be interesting. I wish I had a record. I gotta get a record player because I got all these records and I don't have a record player that works. I got a couple that don't work that I need to try to figure out how to make them work. Next we have Warrant, Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking Rich record. This is from the 80s, I'm guessing, right? 1989. But you can see, like I was saying earlier, it's got the barcode on the back of it from the 80s. A Pat Benatar, Get Nervous, album, 1982. Marshall Tucker Band, Carolina Dreams. We're in Carolina, so that's fitting. 1977. Let the Good Times Roll soundtrack. American Hot Wax motion picture soundtrack. A Billy Joel, Glass Houses album from 1980. See, Billy Joel. See, that's got the barcode on it. See what I'm saying? Janis Joplin Pearl album. Do we got a year on this? Do not see a year, but it doesn't have a barcode, so it's definitely an older record. American Graffiti soundtrack. Another vintage Billy Joel 52nd Street album, 1978, and you notice it doesn't have a barcode. Janis Joplin live in concert, 1972. Charlie Daniels Band, Fire on the Mountain. See back. Don't see the year on this one. Might be on the inside. Now this one I thought was really cool just because I like Waylon Jennings a lot. This is an old Waylon Jennings album, The One and Only, from 1967. Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run, from 1975. These are just killer records. Like I said, I'm going to keep these. Boston, from 1978. A Star Wars album, which original soundtrack composed and conducted by John Williams. 1977, Darth Vader. Dusty Springfield, You Don't Have to Say You Love Me. Don't see the year right offhand. Dionne Warwick, Golden Hits Part 1, 62 to 64. Tony Bennett's Greatest Hits, Volume 3. The Best of 66, Tony Bennett, Ray Conniff, Percy Faith, Robert Goulet, Barbra Streisand, Jerry Valley, Andy Williams. Andy Williams, The Great Songs from My Fair Lady. The Village People, Go West. It's got In the Navy on it, from 1979. The Ventures album. Let's see year on this. It's probably on here, I just don't see it. Get off me, bug. Yeah, I don't see the year. Cool picture, cool record. And last but not least, the Sinatra trilogy, Past, Present, and Future, from 1980. See, this is from 1980, but it doesn't have a barcode on it yet. That's just right around when they started. I read on the internet, they said they thought that the first album was actually Elvis Costello album that put a barcode on it, but that couldn't be verified. So, but around that time is when they started using them, 79, 80-ish. All right, let's move all this stuff and open this next box. Okay, I got the last box opened up and unloaded. This one was packed to the gills, and unfortunately there were some casualties. The little mandolin got broken here, 2 mirrored glass cases got broken, and a swan vase got broken. But honestly, the amount of breakable stuff that we shipped down from Connecticut in the back of that semi, we've had very little breakage, so I'm good with it. It's unfortunate about those mirrored glass cases because those would have sold really easily, but what you gonna do? These are just 2 vintage rugs that we got. We used them to pack with, but we've actually sold these before. The blue one here especially, we sold a few of these in our booth. We live in the town we live in, they have the movie studios, and they always go to our booth and they buy lots of stuff from us. We sold actually a lot of our vintage stuff, and a lot of these rugs and stuff they got coming in and just cleaned us out and bought all our rugs, a bunch of our vintage stuff, a bunch of our furniture for a show they were doing here that was set back in the 50s or 60s. I think it was called Reprisal or something. It only made it 1 season, and we do sell a lot of stuff to the movie studios. Netflix, Hulu, they all make shows here. But anyway, let's get into this stuff and show you what we got. All right, first we got this little teapot. It says made in Holland on the bottom of it. Another little enameled vintage pan. We got a stack of trivets, and what we do with the trivets a lot of times, we'll buy them whenever we see them. 1 or 2 here, they are generally not worth much, but what we'll do is we'll collect them until we get a bunch, and we'll sell them as a lot, and then it works out better for us that way if we sell them as a lot. And we have some, and by the time I add these to it, we'll have a nice little lot to put up on eBay. Got a vintage Sunshine State 1963 Florida license plate. There were a lot of cool old license plate in this house. The oldest ones I got were from 1916, but I'm keeping those. Once again, it's okay to keep stuff sometimes. You know, you work hard, you find cool stuff, keep some of it. This is a art glass fish figure. It's pretty big. I don't see any markings on it. Another gorgeous piece of Roseville pottery, flower basket vase. A travel alarm clock, says Finney Walker. Has a little damage. I don't know if it works, I'll have to test it out. But some of these vintage travel alarm clocks can be worth good money. A little basket, pink. More art glass. This is, I think they call this the confetti art glass. Little paperweights, glass. Got a chicken, bunny, couple of vintage ashtrays. Has some crazing underneath them. No markings. Next, we have a vintage Mother Mary vase planter. No markings that I see on it. It has some crazing, but a lot of this old stuff does. A pottery, it has a marking on the bottom, but I cannot read it. Speckled fantasy corked vase. A black swan vase planter. Don't see any markings on this one either. There was obviously a set of 2 and the other one is smashed. A vintage Schlitz beer glass. It says made in France. The Legend of Ernie Leprechaun tin. Ernie Chocolates, Dublin, Ireland. It's got a hinge lid. People collect these vintage tins, so that'll be something easy to sell and easy to ship. Made in Mexico, another little planter. A copper, I don't know if this is a planter, dish, or bowl. Coppercraft Guild from Massachusetts, it says on the bottom. A copper and brass pitcher, made in England. A vintage postal scale. Park Sherman. A vintage, this could be uranium glass. I'll have to break out my black light when I get inside. If it lights up and glows like uranium glass, I'll post a pic beside it so you can see it. Basket. A couple of Whirly Industries kid cups, cow kid cups. Moo Cow creamer, or maybe it's a creamer. Oh yeah, these are creamers. These aren't kid cups. Yep. Moo Cow creamer for sale. Ask your waitress. Another confetti art glass dish. Royal Sealy, Japan. It says on the bottom. A pair of Remington coffee mugs. 1992. This vintage clock. Now this is interesting. I wonder if this thing will wind. I used to live on a dead-end street, and then they connected to another neighborhood and an apartment complex because they said it was for the emergency vehicles to get across easier so they could help people. I don't buy that at all, and now there's so much traffic on my road. I lived at a dead end when I bought my house. I don't see a name on this thing, so I'm gonna have to do a little research. If I figure it out, I will throw the comp up as always. Another swirl art glass vase. Some cool colors in that one. There were a lot of breakables in that box, and that was not a very big box. So really I'm surprised that not more stuff is broken. Another vintage two-handle, looks like maybe dogwood flower vase. And that says maybe Seller on the bottom, S-E-L-L-E-R possibly. I'll post a comp so you can see exactly what it is. Another piece of art glass. Now look, how did this thing not get broken in that box? Another cool piece of art glass. The Lone Survivor mirror display case, brass display case. The Lone Survivor. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. I'll have to see what's going on with that. I don't want to break it anywhere, so maybe I can figure out what's going on there and keep it from breaking. We'll see. Got a vintage brass frame, small frame. It's probably 5 by 4-ish. Another little trinket dish that has a seal on it. Not in great shape, kind of damaged a little bit. And another ashtray. This one says Japan on the bottom. And then the little flowers got broken, it doesn't look like. That's kind of amazing. And last but not least, we have some vintage artwork that was in the box with all of my records. Some really cool vintage art. My wife said she knows the artist of these, which I don't off the top of my head, but if she tells me, I'll put it in the video so you guys can see it. It's just really, we haven't even began to touch the art. We just had now got to where it's kind of emptied enough in our storage unit to where we can get back to it. Some more cool pieces. And that's it. Oh yeah, and there was a vintage Christmas tree stand. That'll be something we sell in our booth, I'm sure. But yeah, not bad. Little bit of breakage. We had some casualties, but all in all, 2 more really good boxes, and I got my records. As always, visit our store at coastalresaletherapy.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.